oranges.
But why is it the role of business to be the provider of a life, health care, tax collection?
What do you mean by a life?
Well, in other words, what businesses exist for the benefit of their owners.
Okay.
That's it. They have no other responsibility than other to uphold basic law, all right, to not be criminal in nature, not to steal, not to lie, not to cheat.
Okay, but why should basic law not include not cheating your employees? Or not cheating the government?
But who is...
I'm all about cheating the government.
Yeah, I'm all about cheating the government.
No, but the government is funded by us, so they're ultimately cheating us.
Well, why? Yes and no. Why is it the role? Who gave government the right to tell me what my product or my business should fail or succeed based on its own value?
I think
why am I being told I have to give something to somebody? Why am I being told I have? Because ultimately, if I need to do it for the right reasons. If I want the best people, particularly, like I say, go up to Boston where there's a real economy in the future. All right. If I don't pay people right, if I don't give them the right work environment, if I don't provide them with some form of health care, I will go nowhere.
Okay, but those regulations all came about because of extreme abuse to workers over history.
In anything there's
the Hormel Canning Company story, which is notorious from the Depression era.
Right.
Their profits were rising while their competitors' profits were lowering, and Hormel looked around and said, "We could pay our people less."
Mm-hmm.
So they decided to do that, rather than acknowledging the fact that part of the reason they were profitable might have had something to do with the fact that their workers were doing a good job.
Well, but there's a far cry from promoting basic, safe, and healthy standards.
Well, why not safety, health, and
because ultimately
a reasonable amount of money?
Because ultimately it becomes less about the people who own the business and more about the people who work with them.
Why should it not also include the people who work at the business?
If the business is profitable, by definition, those people will be, quote unquote, they will earn their fair wage based on the success of the company.
But how do we determine the fair wage?
Well, let's take an example. All right, let's look at an example of government structuring success of the employees to the extreme, and that's Amtrak. You've got the Railroad Retirement Act, which ensures just an incredible life.
Yeah, well, we're now talking about government employees, and we know the government overdoes it with things.
Isn't that the model that we're pushing private industry towards? Aren't we ultimately saying to private industry that, we're going to tell you what kind of health care you have to give to people. We're going to tell you how many hours that they have to work to get that. We're going to tell you under what conditions they have to work. It's all great when the business is profitable in and of itself. But in a startup mode, or in a business which is subject to a lot of competition, all right, these forced strictures from a federal government, overreaching federal government, the function of the company becomes less and less to provide a product that is successful and more to provide for the goodwill of the employees. And that's not the role of a company, not the role of a business. If those things happen as a result, it will help the company thrive, understood. But the primary goal of a business is to maximize the profit for its owners and shareholders. That's it. Anything else is incidental. And the minute we stop doing that and we flip it on its side, what you have is Rhode Island, which is the Iceland of socialism. We are so genetically socialist at this point that we have forgotten that businesses need an environment in which they can thrive. As a result, they have all left. Businesses have choices.
My issue is, back to Economics 101, is that the same people that would like to have fast food workers make $15 an hour also still want their 99-cent cheeseburger.
Yeah, and the 99-cent cheeseburger will probably have to fall by the wayside.
Unless it's made out of mealworms.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's a bad thing to have it fall by the wayside.
Hey, maybe we could get Snap to sponsor this show as it does other shows.
Actually, mealworms are apparently the protein of the future. Did you know that?
That's fantastic.
Listen, yeah. I read an analysis a few weeks ago that when it went into great detail for 3 or 4 paragraphs that was analyzing the best and most reasonable cost of pure calories, all right, in this country, and they decided that the 99-cent McDouble
I can believe that.
Was on multiple levels the best, purest, most reasonably priced delivery of food that exists in this country.
From time to time, when I'm in a rush, I get the McDouble.
Well, but here's the thing.
It's this it's little concentrated fat sandwich.
As we discussed prior,
lard on rye.
Clearly,
yeah, basically.
And I think we should write to them. clearly did not incorporate the study of the New York system wiener.
That's right. Oh,
Or as I like to call them, diarrhea dogs.
The New York system wiener costs more, but it's worth so much more.
You have access to wieners 24/7, right? I mean,
That's right.
So as a pure delivery system, the wiener may in fact be God's gift to capitalism.
Plus, it's a personal protection system.
yeah, that's true.
True.
If you've ever eaten, yeah, exactly.
If you're on
ever eaten a wiener and you need someone to back away from you, just hello.
If you're out on the dating circuit, chances are some hot wieners before your pickup line ain't gonna work out.
Well, actually, I think that's going to be my litmus test on future first dates. Go to the hot wiener place and we each order 2 all the way and
On the arm. Celery salt?
Yep, 2 all the way, celery salt and coffee milk.
There's nothing like celery salt to
if we
turn
can
a
still-
woman on.
If we can still stand each other with violent onion breath, then we'll know we've got some good chemistry going on.
My sated wife, by the way, has determined that wiener sauce is detectable by the human nose at a quantity of 1 part per million.
Oh yeah, I can believe that.
Remember a few years back when Kentucky grilled chicken came out and everybody was excited? You know, this is a fantastic, healthy alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Then it turned out grilled chicken was worse for you than the actual fried chicken.
But that's government. That's what happens almost all the time.
That was nothing to do with government. They were attempting to respond to the marketplace.
That was free market.
Oh,
yeah.
Stop whining about it, Michelle Obama.
That
Woman
was-
wants people to eat a little healthier. That's not a crime.
That was, kind of like a shady free market. We need to offer something healthy. This is it. And
Yeah, I mean, every fast food restaurant has done that at one point. McDonald's had the McLean burger, which people wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole for no particular reason. They just figured it was a diet food, and no, I'm not eating that.
kind of like when every fast food chain offers fish during Lent, and it's just disgusting. There's probably no fish in there.
I love that terrible fried fish.
Oh.
Though.
It is. It's just
All my
disgusting.
secret horrible fast food likings are coming out.
Two things never work: healthy fast food and liberal talk radio.
Nobody is going to the fast food place to eat the decent stuff.
Well, there isn't any decent stuff.
Yeah, that there's.
There's always Soylent Green.
Actually, I take that back. There are fairly healthy places that could be considered fast food, except that they don't market themselves that way.
Right.
Listen, Chipotle Grill is a perfect example, going back to your Costco analysis, of a company that I've never worked there. I love the place. That superficially, that created a demand for a product that no one knew they really needed.
And their stock is through the
Their
roof.
stock is through the roof. They're expanding everywhere. And it's fat. If you're willing to give up the guac and the sour cream and go light on the cheese, it's grilled protein at its perfect,
Right.
at its finest.
And actually, you should eat the guac because avocados are actually secretly very good for you.
Okay, so
Skip the sour cream, but eat the guac.
It's healthy food at a somewhat reasonable price, and in a very clean environment where they treat their employees ostensibly very well. And that is what someone like me as a libertarian embraces, because that's the free market simultaneously sensing a need, creating demand, and creating a workplace, all right, that benefits from the demand and the need for the product. And in a perfect world, they'd all be like that, but we know they're not. And we know that there's companies that are sleazy and take advantage of their employees. But here's the good news. Walmart is starting to take, like every company that was undefeatable, that was never going to go away, that was going to dominate the world, Walmart's licking its wounds all of a sudden. Walmart's getting nipped at its heels.
Yeah, but it's taken a very, very long time.
It always does.
And they've made a lot of money. I don't begrudge them the money they've made. I do begrudge them not paying their employees a decent wage.
But also
Because their employees are what made the company work. You can talk as much as you want about makers versus takers, but the employees of a company are helping the makers make.
Right, but ultimately, don't the employees in a properly working economy that's not hobbled by inefficiencies, like Rhode Island, all right, don't they have the choice to leave?
And they may actually care about their jobs,
Right.
too, in that situation.
Right, but don't they have the choice to go elsewhere? Now, in
Not
other
in-
parts of New England, they have the choice. Remember, we suffer from Rhode Island syndrome, where we see doom and gloom. As I pointed out in my post the other day, Mordor is only a few blocks away on Smith Hill. All right, where we are the archetype of everything wrong in America, right here in Rhode Island. But in other parts of this country, the situations that you just ascribe to Walmart are resolving themselves through some near free market ways, which ironically now are getting pushed back by the latest government intervention, the reinvention, what do they say, pink is the new black? Well, the 29-hour work week is the new 40-hour work week. Thanks in part to the government that's here to help you. And so all these people are complaining about the creation of the new temp economy and the new part-time economy. Well, newsflash, folks, what do you think is pushing that train down?
So now a working class or a quote-unquote blue-collar guy needs to have, or gal in that matter, needs to have 2 30-hour-a-week jobs.
Right, and so does his or her spouse.
Exactly.
In order to support the kids.
Well, I'll tell you, it's not even working class people. IBM announced this week that 110,000 retirees. Now, IBM is a company where, I don't think there was a single minimum wage job in the history of that company, all right, has pushed people off of their own health care into these healthcare exchanges. Christine Ferguson, watch out, they're headed your way. More elderly people, just what you were dreaming of.
But the elderly people but this is going to be supplemental to Medicare. Most of the elderly people are getting Medicare, so these are going to be supplemental policies.
Some, yes.
For the most part.
Okay, but ultimately, are we then taking away what was a not perfect, but a somewhat well-working healthcare system in this country? Remember, all the people from socialist countries come here to get the ones that can afford to. The elite from each of these countries comes here for their healthcare. They don't.
Or they buy the Cadillac plan.
Right. I don't see charter flights over to the UK right now for medical care.
Especially not dental.
Exactly. But ultimately, every time the free market tries, it's Atlas Shrugged. Every time Atlas sort of stumbles to its feet, all right. Obviously, there are abhorrent examples of it, but ultimately, the minute they stumble to their feet, the government just pops on another artificial. Why is free enterprise have to be the provider, the caretaker? Who decided that small business would support the nation in every single way?
Well, the healthcare issue is peculiar to the U.S. It came about during World War II. Wages were going through the roof. There were price wars basically happening because most of the men were overseas fighting. Mm-hmm. Not most, but a significant chunk of them. And there was a labor shortage. Women were entering the workforce. There was still a labor shortage. So companies were basically at war with each other. We'll pay you more. Oh, yeah? Well, we'll pay you more than that. And at some point, the government said, this is getting completely out of hand. The prices of goods are going through the roof. We're stopping this. There's a freeze on the wages. You can't raise them anymore. So then companies started offering health care and other benefits like that. And that's basically how we got stuck with this system where healthcare is tied to employment. And for a while, when the cost of that was fairly low compared to the corporate profits, companies didn't seem to mind it that much. But over time, that's sort of fallen out of whack. And we now have, our entire corporate sector is basically hamstrung by having to pay ever higher health insurance costs. How do you compete on the international market with countries that deal with this in more of a nationalized way? It's tough on businesses.
Right. And yet we're given the inefficiencies, the brutal inefficiencies of the federal government. Mm-hmm. Someone like myself I have no desire to see the federal government, which has never done anything well, take over the responsibility for it.
Medicare is not run terribly. There is fraud that needs to be rooted out, and they need to spend more money. They need to spend more money to save even more money than that. But for the most part, seniors are not that unhappy with Medicare.
But my response ultimately to the great Walmart question is, the marketplace needs to sort out its own issues. Walmart is going to fail probably within a generation or become a shadow of itself for reasons other than what they pay their employees. That'll be part of it. Higher quality employees will continue to leave and go to companies like Costco, no doubt. Number two, quite frankly, it's not a very well-run company anymore. If you shop at Walmart, you see it's fraying at the edges.
They have 125 registers and one pimply teenage kid working.
Right. So, well, actually, you can't then blame the cost of employment, because if they're only hiring one pimply teenage kid to work the register, how can you claim that their back is being broken by having to pay a higher wage? They're not paying a higher wage. That pimply teenager, as soon as he's 18, is conceivably
let the market. Clearly, you can't let industry just run amok and make its own rules. I mean, it's.
No, I don't want to go back to. I don't want to go back to the Gilded Age. It wasn't gilded for the rest of us.
Right, we understand that, but we we've got so far to the other extreme. We're so far at the point where essentially government is running industry. We have become Atlas Shrugged here.
Except that it's hard to